Here we go, College Football Payoff Podcast. We are into week 8 of the college football season. Yep.
Week 8,
episode
46.
9, episode 46 overall. That's Big Country. I'm Dan, and we finally had a perfect week for the podcast. At least one of us did. Big Country went 3-0 on his picks last week. I went 2-1. As a pod, we went 5-1. That's when you told me you went 3-0 at work, I was pretty pumped up.
Yeah.
And we finally got it.
And it's just even sweeter to go 3-0 right after going 0-3
the
week before. So good bounce back. For me, 14-10 on the season. Just feels really good. Back to a nice winning percentage here. What about you?
Yeah, I am 17-12 overall, which makes us as a collective podcast, we are 31-22. So all three of those records are sitting at 58% wins.
Feels good.
That's pretty
That's sharp.
Good. That's very, very sharp. And just a quick recap of last week. Well, first of all, let's recap kind of what happened. I mean, it was a pretty solid week of college football, but the big story was Tennessee knocking off Bama. And that was one of your picks, wasn't it? Or did you have the over?
No, I had plus 7.5.
You had the plus 7.5.
Which actually turned to plus 8.5 on game day.
And I was going to roll with that as well. And then the over was smashed as well.
Never a doubt.
But now that begs the question where every year it seems like if Bama were to lose, they lose to a team like this. Tennessee jumps into the top 4. I think Tennessee's at 4 now, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't even look at rankings, to be honest.
Well, here's why I'm looking at them, because this is how it's going to come down to it. They're going to have Tennessee at 4. They're going to have Bama just outside the top 4. They're going to get to the SEC championship or the Big Ten championship. They'll have Ohio State and Michigan right next to each other.
They'll take care of each other.
Right, and then it bleeds away for Bama and them to get, 2, maybe 3 SEC teams in the college football playoff.
We'll see what happens with Tennessee. If they beat Georgia, they're automatically going to the playoff. Yeah. But also the good thing for Alabama, at least, is that Tennessee's on the other side of the conference. Mm-hmm. So they could meet again in the SEC championship possibly. But also if Tennessee only loses to Georgia and wins pretty substantially throughout the rest of the season, they could get to the SEC or to the college football playoff without even playing in the SEC championship.
Yep. Yeah, so a lot of storylines. We're getting down to it's just past, I think it's just past midway point of the season. So we'll start to get, we'll start to get some more tells of how seasons are going to go, how the conference is going to turn out, and feeling pretty confident this week. So I'm just going to quick recap of my picks from last week. Winners were Clemson minus 3.5. That was easy. USC plus 3.5. They ended up losing that game by 1, I think it was, to Utah. That was a crazy game. And then the lone loss for the podcast was Wisconsin minus 7. I was just on the wrong end of that. They took it to overtime and lost by 7 to Michigan State. So, obviously, you won all 3 of yours. So,
TCU, Oklahoma State, over 65.5.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, or wait, might have been 68.5. Excuse me. They fought hard for that. Tennessee plus 7.5. Never a doubt. Well, kind of a doubt at some points in the game, especially during that fumble recovery for a touchdown by Alabama. I thought that was going to be the blow up. Then Buffalo first half minus 9.5. Very sharp play on my part.
Very, very sharp play on your part. All right, so that's the recap. Now we'll jump right into it. We each got 3 picks this week. I'm going to start us off. I'm going to go with one of the most, I wouldn't even say surprising, just one of the most feel-good teams of the season. That's James Madison. James Madison, Saturday, they'll be playing at 3:30 at home against Marshall. They are 13-point home favorites, and the total's at 53. I am going to take James Madison to cover. James Madison minus 13 in this one. Let's talk about James Madison for a bit. Right now, they suffered their first loss last week. They were 13-point road favorites, and it was a upset. I mean, Georgia Southern beat them 45-38, so they won by, a touchdown? 8 points?
Yeah.
points. But James Madison outgained him 675 to 590. It was just back and forth. It was a shootout. But the big thing there was James Madison committed 4 turnovers. They only forced the 1 turnover, so that will cost them the game. And that's exactly what their coach said afterwards. They had a punt blocked for a touchdown, turned it over 4 times. It's just not a recipe for success for them. But what we're looking at with James Madison is their defense. So they're scoring 43 points a game. That's great. 6th most in the country, but you're looking at the kind of talent that they're playing against, all that. Senior quarterback Tom Centillo, 28-48 for 468 yards last week. A couple touchdowns, but he did throw those 3 picks. But on the season, he's nearing 1,800 yards, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So 3 of his 4 interceptions happened last week. He's also running the ball pretty well. He has 5 rushing touchdowns. They also have a senior running back who has close to 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a senior wide receiver who's caught 5 touchdowns for 650 yards. So senior playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense, giving up 20 points a game, 27th in the country. They kind of, they're wishy-washy on passing, 251 yards through the air given up. But the key for this James Madison defense is the running game. They are first in the country right now in team rushing defense. On average, they give up 36 yards of rushing per game. So that's 1.3 yards per rush. Their defense is pristine when it comes to stopping the run. It's the best in the country. The loss last week to Georgia Southern, they didn't lose, they didn't get beat, they lost. I think that's how you word that. Right, they didn't get beat by a better team. They lost that game.
The other team didn't win. The game.
There it is.
They lost.
Yes, exactly. So for this game, I think James Madison's going to come back, and they're going to be. I think that was the first time they were ranked in the top 25 last week too.
Yeah, first year in the FBS.
Yep.
I mean, they really impressive. I think it's so dumb that they can't play in a bowl game this year.
It is.
But I'd love to see them in the postseason, and I'm going to be cheering with you on this one.
Yeah, because James Madison, they're going to be coming out. They're going to want to impress everyone. They're going to want to show that last week was a fluke. Marshall just doesn't have enough firepower on the offensive side of the ball through the air to gash James Madison. I know that they're not going to run the ball against James Madison because they have the best rush defense in the country. Marshall's defense is tough, but the fact that Marshall's not going to be able to get first downs, they're going to be punting the ball, be giving it back to James Madison. I just don't think Marshall's going to be able to score points here. And another key for this is James Madison, 8-1 against the spread in their last 9 games overall. So this is pretty much my lock it up, throw away the key, absolute secure pick of the week is James Madison minus 13 against Marshall.
Nice. Yeah, I actually had Louisiana last week against Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
They were, 10.5-point underdogs and ended up winning outright. So I just don't know where Marshall's at as a program this year.
Right.
Especially you beat teams like Notre Dame one week and then lose to the Sun Belt's finest the next. So.
Yep.
All right. For my first pick of the week 8 locks, I'm going to go down to an ACC matchup in Coral Gables, Florida. We're going to take a look at the Duke-Miami game here. Just right off the bat, Miami is absolutely just riddled with injuries right now. Last Saturday, they lost their starting tight end. He is out for the season, unfortunately. When it comes to other injuries, they have 2 offensive linemen that are questionable for this game. One with an undisclosed injury, the other one with a knee injury, and their leading rusher, Parrish Jr., who has 378 yards and 4 touchdowns on the season. He is also questionable for Saturday. They're going to be missing a pretty aggressive part of their team that's kept them in games because their defense certainly hasn't. And that also leads to my next point about Miami. They're 1-5 against the spread this year. 1-5 ATS. In my eyes, Mario Cristobal and Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback are just majorly overpriced in the market, and it's shown. With losses to North Carolina, with losses to teams like Middle Tennessee, and only beating Virginia Tech last week by 6 points. It's just I know Blacksburg's a hard place to play, but there's just no excuse for Miami to be doing that. Starting out this season when they played Bethune-Cookman, they started the season beating them 70-13, and that really set my expectation for this team. But ever since then, it's just been a wreck. When we look at Duke, they're having not great, but a better than expected season with first-year head coach Mike Elko. He really is a guy that runs a very balanced, high productive offense. They're averaging 228 yards through the air and 205 yards on the ground every game this year. Their quarterback, Riley Leonard, is a dual threat guy, just chucking the ball up all over the field. He's also the leading rusher on the team. He's good. He's ready to go for this game. And if we look at Miami's performances against high-powered passing teams like Duke, Miami's played two teams similar to that this year, and that's been Middle Tennessee and North Carolina. They've lost both those games. I think 9 points is entirely too much, so I'm going to go with Duke +9 on the road. There's not going to be much of a home field advantage at Miami. Nobody's going to want to go to these games here. I'd rather go to the beach than probably a Miami Hurricanes game right now. And I believe Mike Elko and Riley Leonard are going to lead us to a potential outright win, but I feel good on the pod at giving you guys Duke +9.
Yeah, I never think that Miami really has home field advantage when they play at home. And I think some players have even come out and said, we're not at home. This isn't a home field advantage.
We'd rather play away.
Right, because it's not a college, it's not a college stadium. You don't get that college feel, so you don't have the people who are going to Miami games are, the old retired people who moved down to Florida and they have money and they go support the U, but it's not really a college.
I just don't see, Mario Cristobal also, he was the chosen guy to go to Miami. The stars aligned for him to go there, the funding, the boosters, everything. He's a great recruiter, but that's honestly just where great players, or at least great quarterbacks, go to die, or on his staff or on his team. He almost ruined Justin Herbert's chance at being a first-round pick, and I kind of see him doing the same thing with Tyler Van Dyke this season.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Okay. So that's one apiece. Let me move on here. We're going to do a little action for you. I got Eastern Michigan against Ball State. This is Saturday at 2 o'clock at Ball State. Ball State is a 2.5-point home favorite, I think. 2.5. Yep. And I'm going to take Ball State -2.5 in this one. It's a tale of basically two teams going in different directions, not necessarily with their performance, but kind of the way that their season is trending, I should say, their feeling as a team, their chemistry, things like that, just the intangibles. Start with Eastern Michigan. Last week, 3.5-point home favorites, looking for their third straight win. They got upset big time by Northern Illinois, 39-10. They got less than 250 total yards and gave up over 400 yards of total offense. And Eastern Michigan after that, a defeat like that at home in front of your home fans, kind of getting embarrassed like that could make you feel pretty low on yourself here. They're scoring, they're giving up points, they're giving up yards. Their defense isn't anything to write home about. In week 6 they just had one of their guys had 4 sacks in a victory against Western Michigan. That's about the highlight of their defense. So you got one team who has been going kind of downhill, and then the cherry on the top of that was losing at home. Not just losing at home, but losing by double digits at home while you're a favorite. And then we flip it over to Ball State. Ball State, yeah, they barely beat UConn last week, 25-21. but their winning streak is up to 3 games. And the 3 games that they've won have all been like come from behind, thrilling wins. Last week, they were down 11 at half, scored 15 unanswered, shut out UConn in the second half, and still managed to cover the 9.5-point spread on the road. Their sophomore running back, Carson Steele, just went off. He had 32 rushes, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns. A couple of those were in the fourth quarter. And he scored 3 times in week 5, I think it was, against that Northern Illinois team that just beat Jesus, I'm losing my mind right here. That just beat Eastern Michigan. I wanted to say Western Michigan so badly. I do not know why. But their coach, I mean, he's saying a win is a win, right? These 3 wins have all been come from behind fashion. They're exciting wins. It's not ugly. It's still a win. It still counts on the record sheet as a W. So with the Cardinals winning those last 3 games in a row dramatically, their confidence is through the roof now, right? They feel like they're not really out of a game, almost like my Cleveland Guardians, who all season you never felt like they were out of the game. Now that's the same thing for Ball State. They can go into a game, go into that fourth quarter and say, man, 11 points, 2 touchdowns, let's do this. We can still win this game. Not only were they down last week, they came back and still covered a 9.5-point spread in one half of football. That's pretty remarkable. And then last week, Eastern Michigan's run defense, like we said, terrible. I think that bodes well for Carson Steele of Ball State. He's going to have another great performance. And it's just Eastern Michigan's been really hit or miss. They've been really inconsistent. They won 2 straight on the road, but then they lose 2 or 3 at home. They give up a boatload of points. They're 2-7 against their spread in their last 9 game overall, and Ball State is 8-3 against the spread in their previous 11 October games. I just think this is confidence sky high against confidence going down to the cellar. Ball State minus 2.5. I think that's easy money.
Nice. Love me some MAC football.
Love the MAC.
All right. I'm actually going to tap into another ACC game for my second pick of the week. And we're going to go take a look at this Boston College Wake game. First of all, I love Sam Hartman. Hell of a quarterback. Missed, the first, how many games? 2 or 3 games at the beginning of the season before he got to come back. Mm-hmm. And he's already has 16 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions through the games he's played. This Wake Forest offense is averaging 41.2 points per game. That puts them at 14th in the nation in scoring, and that's why I'm also leaning over for this game. So we're going to go with over 61. I do think we're going to get some help from Boston College. One great thing about Boston College is they have the 129th rushing offense out of 131 teams in the country, meaning they can only score if they're throwing the ball. They can only move the ball if they're throwing, and I really like that with Phil Jakovic back there. I do think he's an NFL caliber quarterback. He's from Western Pennsylvania, had a great high school career, originally committed to Notre Dame. Didn't have much success there, but he has flashes when he can stay healthy at Boston College, and I really think he can, as a 20-point underdog that Boston College is, I do think they can help us get to this total here in the end. Also, his leading receiver, Zay Flowers, he's already got 556 receiving yards this year with 5 touchdowns. And another great thing to look at here is that Wake's 2 original starting defensive backs are going to be out for this game. Well, at least one we know is for sure going to be out. He's out for the season, but the other one's questionable. So I do think Zay Flowers has potential to go off here and have a big game. So, I know this Wake Forest team is liable to put up 50 on anybody. They put up 45 on a pretty solid Clemson defense. So I think if they can put up 45, we can get the other 17 from Boston College if needed. I feel pretty comfortable with that. So I'm going to go with this over 61 in an ACC matchup where, the ACC hasn't had any outstanding sort of defensive units this year. So we're going to be, I feel pretty good about this one.
I like it. A couple ACC matchups for you. That's beautiful. All right. Let me get to my third one here. Okay, give me just a second. I just want to look something up. Yep, there we go. Okay, so I had a MAC play. I had a Fun Belt play. Now let's go with a top 25 matchup. In the Big 12, we're going to go with Texas, Oklahoma State. This game is being played in Oklahoma State, I believe. Let me confirm. Yep. So game at Oklahoma State. I don't like their field at all. Before I even start to talk about this, I don't feel good playing anything at their field. I think it's too compact. But anyway, Texas ranked 20th overall. Oklahoma State ranked 11th overall. Not really too. I'm not worried about those rankings right now. Key here is Texas 6.5 point road favorites. Total set at 62. I think there will be points. I'm not sure if Oklahoma State is going to be able to score many points, but I'm going with Texas minus 6.5 in this one. I think that Oklahoma State, coming off of a loss last week, which basically derailed their season, I think they might have been looking ahead, but I think they're also looking ahead towards next week as well. They're in a tough part of their schedule. So, and last week it was a 14-point fourth quarter lead that they just completely blew against TCU, ended up losing that in double overtime. Very, very, very disheartening for a team. Mike Gundy said that TCU was able to run the ball. Oklahoma State couldn't run the ball. I think Oklahoma State's going to need to figure that out real quick if they have a shot against Texas. Texas coming back, Quinn Ewers, look, he's fun to watch. But I think the main cog in that offense is Bijan Robinson. He's probably, if not one of the best running backs in the country. And he plays on a fast team in the heat, fast turf. I feel like this stadium at Oklahoma State plays well. I don't know what it is, but I feel like stadiums that are kind of like more, I wouldn't say enclosed, but like the sideline isn't as deep. So you know how like
closer to the stands.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know Ohio Stadium there's a lot of opening around the field, right? So for some reason on these stadiums that are like close like this, Northwestern, Baylor,
fans are right on you.
I feel like players move faster. Okay. I don't know why. I honestly, I'd love to do
science behind that.
I'd love to do some kind of sports science behind it, but I feel like the game moves faster.
Yeah.
And I think that bodes well for Bijan Robinson in this one. Texas's defense has only allowed 21 points or more once this season. They have the weapons. They have a quarterback who's going to be able to exploit the secondary of Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State also has they have serious injury worries on their defense, as well as Spencer Sanders, who I feel is injured a lot. He is playing through a shoulder injury. He is dual threat, so yeah, he can run and throw, but I think that shoulder injury is going to kind of, if Texas puts a spy on him or gets him one solid hit early in that game, I don't think the passing game comes around, and they weren't able to run the ball last week. I think it's going to be tough. Sanders' center, Preston Wilson, is also out of. He missed TCU's game with a leg injury, and his backup actually left that game in the third quarter. So the offensive line has some issues. Wide receiver Jaden Bray sat out week 7. Wilson and Bray are questionable to play against Texas. They're banged up. It's gonna be tough to get anything going. I think their defense is just going to struggle to hold Robinson and Ewers, and I just think this is going to be kind of a blowout. I think Texas wins this by double digits, and I think Texas starts to roll here, gets their footing under them. But
I love Ewers.
I do too.
I
do
love
too.
watching
I really do. I don't mind that. Hey, we're in the day and age where I don't care if you were Ohio State and then you went somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's fine. You do what you got to do to play. I'm glad he's getting to play.
Joe Burrow did the same thing, and he's still an Ohio State guy.
Yeah, I don't care. Dude, it's good for these guys. As long as you don't go do it and then
diss on Ohio State.
Yeah, you shouldn't have anything bad to say.
No.
You went there because
you got some bread.
You got it.
Got paid.
Right? And now you go play because you have a chance to play somewhere, and now you're showing everyone.
Yeah.
I love it. So
yeah, Archie Manning's got a red shirt next year, which should probably be the right thing to do in the first place.
Yeah. He'll do that, or he'll do the same thing Ewers did.
Yeah.
He'll get his money, and then he'll go somewhere else. Like, I don't know, he'll go to, like, USC or something and destroy it.
Would be a good fit for Archie.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's my last pick. Texas, -6.5 against Oklahoma State.
All right. Big country. Pick number 3. 3 of 3 on the week. And this is actually just going to be a pretty short analysis. We're going to go look at a Big 12 game that could honestly be the preview to what we're going to see in the Big 12 championship later this year. And we're going to look at Kansas State, TCU. We're going to take the over right off the bat. It's over 54. And I'm just taking this solely because TCU is liable to put up 50-plus on anybody they play. They, under that Sonny Dykes offense, are just they have the third most points in the nation for any offense. And they're in the top 25 in most categories that you can keep stats on for offenses in the nation. And their defense is nothing special. They actually have a mid to bottom tier defense, which has gotten exposed a couple of times. It got exposed last week against Oklahoma State. But I just think this 54 number is way too low. I don't know what I'm missing here. There's not any huge notable injuries. Adrian Martinez is going to play, and the great thing about playing with Adrian Martinez is he could run for an 80-yard touchdown, or he could give TCU the ball through a turnover on Kansas State's 10-yard line. So I think we'll be able to capitalize off of Adrian Martinez's sporadic play. Like I said, Max Duggan's a great quarterback. 16 touchdowns, 1 interception on the year. I know we went with the TCU over last week, but we're going to do the same thing here. I do think Kansas State will be able to put up points, and I also think that TCU will be able to score on this pretty good, pretty decent Kansas State defense. But when we look at 2 other teams that Kansas State has already played this year, that have similar offenses to TCU, which is Texas Tech and Oklahoma. That Texas Tech game was Kansas State won 37-28, and they also beat Oklahoma 41-34. Both those scores going way over 54 that we're facing this week. So you can catch me placing a bet at the window for over 54. Kansas State TCU.
There it is. All right, coming off that undefeated week, you got the mojo working for you. I think we got another good week ahead of us here. If I do say so myself, I think maybe it's my turn to get the 3-0. Who knows?
I want to see it.
I do too. It'd be nice.
What's our pod record again? Repeat that for everybody at home, please.
Pod record is 31-22, which is 58%.
It's a good sample size.
Very, very good. Yeah, I mean, whenever you're through 7 weeks and you're still above 50%, we've been above 50% the entire year.
Right.
Every single week's been above 50%. I think that's a damn good sign. You're going to win more than half of your bets.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. Like we said, you're never going to win 80-90% of your bets all the time. So if someone's telling you guarantee that you get 80% wins or anything like that,
it's bullshit.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that. But anything north of 50, I would say
over a sample size like we give, yeah.
So
I think that's pretty good.
I don't know. I'm feeling really good about what we're doing, and you should too. So, what do they need to do? They need to like, subscribe, comment, and share with their friends.
Share the love.
All right, give them the.
Let everybody make some money.
Give them the socials. Let them know.
Follow Dan at dposk13 on Twitter. Follow me at Big Country Bets, and most of all, follow the pod at CFP_pod. Give us a tweet there. Maybe we'll give you a little shout out. On top of that, we are on YouTube, every podcast streaming service you have. So it doesn't matter how you're sharing it. Just make sure you're sending it to your friends who gamble.
Yep, and find us anywhere you can listen to a podcast. We are there. We record this on Wednesday night, and we get it out Thursday morning. I mean, as quickly as possible. And, you have enough time there. So hopefully the lines don't change too much. But I feel like we get it out quick enough to where the lines are somewhat
capitalize on what they are.
But, let's have a good week. I'm going to recap real quick mine. I got Ball State -2.5 against Eastern Michigan, James Madison -13 against Marshall, and Texas -6.5 against Oklahoma State. Big country, what do you got?
I got Duke +9 at Miami. I got the Boston College Wake Forest over 61. And I have the Kansas State TCU over 54.
There it is. He went 3-0 last week, so I'd pay close attention to what he said. All right, you got anything else? We good to go here?
I'm good. I'm ready to cash some tickets.
There we go. All right, that's Big Country. I'm Dan. We will see you next week.